Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Mystery Rift. I am David Paulides. Tonight, we are going deep, focusing on two incidents that are separated by hundreds of miles, different years, and vast landscapes. However, if you have been following the work we do here, you know that geographical distance means nothing when the pattern starts to emerge. I am talking about two disappearances where the common denominators are hauntingly familiar. Seclusion, water, and a complete, almost surgical, lack of evidence. These are not ordinary missing person cases. They are textbook examples of something else. Something inexplicable that demands our attention and scrutiny. We will begin our journey in the heartland, up in Montana, where the mountains give way to the vast plains. The first incident, the first terrifying puzzle, happened in Dawson County. This is the case of Renee LaRue, a woman who vanished with a curious set of circumstances surrounding her. Renee was working at a guest ranch and had taken some time off for a planned road trip to Oregon. She was traveling with a male friend, a fellow ranch employee, and she brought along her two dogs. The missing person poster clearly showed her pooch, and just like so many of the cases we cover, the individual disappeared while their dog was right there with them. On June 26th, Renee, her friend, and the dogs left. Driving through the rugged landscape, they crossed the North Dakota border into Montana, heading north for 17 miles until they reached what is known as Campsite 17. This area is remote, situated right on the powerful Yellowstone River, a wild and powerful body of water. They arrived, let the dogs exercise, and took in the wild beauty of the area. Her friend claims that when it got dark, they put the dogs back in the car, and Renee and he went inside to sleep. That was the last confirmed sighting of Renee on the night of June 26th. Before everything changed, the friend claims he woke up on the morning of June 27th and Renee was simply gone. The dogs, strangely, were still inside the car, unharmed. He insists he didn't hear a sound, didn't hear a struggle, nothing to suggest a typical disturbance. He got out, searched around the car, and looked along the riverbank. He found no evidence of where she might have gone. Critically, he reported finding no tracks leading down to the river, a place where the bank is typically soft enough to leave a clear impression. For most people, a vanishing requires an immediate call to the authorities. But for some unexplained reason, this male companion waited a staggering 3 days before contacting the Dawson County Sheriff on June 30th. This delay, regardless of the cause, immediately casts a shadow of suspicion over the entire event. However, when the sheriff's office finally arrived and interviewed the companion, something extraordinary happened. The sheriff confirmed that detectives interviewed the man at length regarding his silence. Although they never disclosed the details, the sheriff stated the rationale for the 3-day delay made sense to them. We have to trust the judgment of law enforcement. But for a seasoned detective to accept a reason for such a critical delay, it had to be a significant, almost overwhelming explanation. Perhaps it was a secret the companion was terrified to admit, something that defied conventional understanding of the situation. A massive, multi-day search and rescue operation was launched on the river. Boats with sonar, canine teams, cadaver dogs, and drones scoured the Yellowstone for miles. Later, the highly capable Badlands Search and Rescue Organization conducted a second, meticulous search. They flew drones, used side-scan sonar, and searched every major logjam and accumulation of debris on the riverbanks. Despite the intensive multi-agency effort over several days, they found absolutely nothing. Renee LaRue vanished as though she was never there. And then we have the peculiar, almost trademark element of high strangeness involving the dogs. After the initial report, the companion was instructed to return the car and the two dogs to the guest ranch. About 15 miles from Glendive, he let them out to relieve themselves. Both dogs immediately took off running as if something unseen had terrified them. One dog was later found, but the other, Renee's Chihuahua mix named Bean, never returned. Why would the dogs, safe inside the vehicle during the initial event, suddenly exhibit such extreme panicked behavior miles away. My hypothesis, my only guess, is that Renee got up to use the restroom, or perhaps she heard something unusual near the river. The sheriff suggested she was deceased in the river, but the lack of tracks is a major problem for that theory. It's hard to reconcile a drowning with a total lack of ground evidence. The official theory ignores the terror of the dogs and the instantaneous nature of her disappearance. What if the reason there are no tracks, and the reason the dogs ran, is because what took her didn't walk on the ground? The area near the North Dakota border is known for unexplained localized phenomena. It's a terrifying whodunit, but perhaps the who is not human. Let's now shift our focus to the West Coast, to a different kind of water, and a different kind of vanishing that shares the same chilling thread. The second case involves a young man named Riley Salisbury, just 19 years old. He went missing on January 12th, 2019, near Carlson Island on the immense Columbia River in Oregon, a region rife with its own high strangeness history. Riley was an experienced, smart hunter, practicing taxidermy and drawing detailed wildlife sketches, a meticulous individual. He was out duck hunting with his father, Todd, and his younger brother, using a smaller, separate boat for himself. Showing great parental trust, Todd allowed Riley to hunt alone, but insisted on one condition. Riley had to call his father on the cell phone every hour for safety. The first call went fine, confirming his position. An hour later, Todd called again. Silence. No answer on the cell phone. Todd's immediate concern turned to panic, and he did exactly what any parent should. He searched quickly, and when he couldn't locate his son, he called 911 immediately. The U.S. Coast Guard launched a massive effort, sending a helo helicopter and a cutter, alongside Clatsop County's Marine Division. Todd relayed a critical detail. Riley was wearing neoprene waders, the material used in wetsuits that are known to float. This fact should have made finding him relatively straightforward. Searchers quickly found the first anomalous object on Carlson Island, Riley's shotgun. It was loaded, unfired, and undamaged, resting neatly on the shore. Why would an experienced hunter leave a loaded weapon behind and walk away from it? The situation grew more ominous when they found Riley's boat about a mile away, floating upright near Russian Island. The boat itself was completely undamaged, simply adrift in the powerful current. It was a terrifying ghost ship. Inside the boat, they made the most puzzling discovery of all. Riley's life preserver, his cell phone, and his personal bag were all there. He was wearing gear that floats, but he left behind the very equipment that could have saved him or alerted others to his presence. The Coast Guard worked for 19 straight hours through the dark and the bitter cold of the January River, using advanced thermal imaging technology. Despite all this effort, Riley was nowhere to be found. The water was frigid, but the logic of the situation had already frozen solid. Todd Salisbury was interviewed afterward, and his words resonate with a deep, unsettling truth about these cases. He stated, "It was literally like someone picked him straight up out of his position and carried him away, because there was no sign of any type of struggle." Think about that carefully. Picked up and carried away. No struggle. This immediately rules out most conventional accidents or attacks. Why would an experienced hunter simply leave his gun and then vanish without a trace, leaving a perfectly intact, floating boat? We must consider the element of a dimensional anomaly, a mystery rift. What if, while Riley was standing on Carlson Island, a localized high-energy event, a brief, invisible dimensional doorway opened near him? This explains the instantaneous vanishing and the lack of struggle. The metal shotgun, perhaps affected by an electromagnetic field surge, was simply left behind as the non-physical event occurred. His floating gear meant his body would not be found immediately because it might have been transferred out of our observable reality entirely. Now, let's tie these two impossibilities together. Renee and Riley, both vanished near powerful water sources. In both cases, the victims left behind critical evidence, or the evidence was completely absent where it should have been. The lack of tracks, the floating gear left behind, the terror of the animals, these are not mere accidents. They are sudden, clean abductions that defy our laws of physics. The presence of these major river systems, with their deep geological structures, may be linked to localized temporal or energetic fissures that briefly open, acting like a net for the unsuspecting. This brings us to the end of our dive into the unknown. We are left with two facts. Two people vanished without a trace near the water, and the world is a lot stranger than any of us are willing to give it credit for. I want to acknowledge the families who are living through this unending pain. There are no easy answers here. I am sure Todd did what he believed was right. To the Salisbury and LaRue families, know that my heart is with you, and we continue to look for answers. This brings me to the start of the kindness revolution. It does not cost you anything to be kind. We need more patience and more understanding in the world, especially for those who are suffering unimaginable loss. Next time you see somebody in need, reach out. If you have free time, go join your local search and rescue organization. It costs nothing but your time, and it makes a true difference. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on Mystery Rift.